How are you doing today?
I'm all right.
All right.
I'm all right. Yeah. I'm happy I'm here.
Happy you're here.
Yeah.
Seems like a slight change from last time. Are you feeling any differently, or?
I'm just, we talked about basically my goals and going to school and everything, getting a job. So I just wanna get there.
Yeah. Sounds like you're feeling pretty motivated to make some changes.
Yeah. Yeah, I am.
So one of the main things you wanted to focus on was your anxiety, right?
Mhm.
All right. So I think we're just going to do a little bit of an overview of anxiety and what it means, and then we can move into how it plays out for you and what we can do to address it.
Okay.
All right. So let's first talk about what anxiety actually is. So anxiety is one of the core human emotions that we developed a long time ago to just identify threats and keep us safe from danger. But it's important to know that our mind evolved and developed mainly, 200,000 years ago, when the threats in our life were very different. So and we still have that same brain. So since we've advanced so much as civilization, our brains haven't changed that much. So our brain is still always on the lookout for threats, snakes or tigers or any of these things that may pose a great danger to us. And so having that really strong anxiety response used to be very useful, but now in our modern world it seems to cause us a lot of problems. So one of the main ways to help treat anxiety disorders is to help people like you identify some of the thoughts that may be erroneous or not fit for our time. So a lot of times people have over-exaggerated beliefs, or their anxiety will just take them down a rabbit hole that they don't need to go down.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about a little bit what anxiety feels like for you. So what are some major things that give you anxiety?
That give me anxiety.
Yeah, that make you feel anxious.
Just meeting new people is one of the biggest ones. I'm constantly I feel like I visibly my body feels like it's vibrating.
Yeah.
From the nerves, this current is just kind of jolting me, and it's more because I get really. It's not just when I get there, but it's also just me going somewhere where there's new people, like a party or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm sweating when I'm walking in, and I'm like I said, I'm feel like I'm shaking, and my mouth gets really dry. And I keep thinking, I feel like as I'm walking, heads are turning to follow where I'm at, and so it just makes me feel like I'm walking awkward, or it just makes me feel very hyper aware of myself.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest things. Because when I'm at home, I get anxious, but it's not to that level. I get more restless. I'm pacing a little bit. I'm walking around. I start cleaning everything, putting everything in order, in a particular way, I guess. So I think that's it.
Okay. So you mentioned that when you're in public, you often feel like people are watching you or judging you.
Yeah.
And that you also experience a lot of physical symptoms, like a dry mouth and shakiness and tension all out your body.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you mentioned that you feel like people are judging you. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
As to what I think people are thinking.
Yeah. So what are people judging you about, or what? Yeah.
Well, whether, like I said, when I get so caught up in what people are seeing me that I feel like I'm walking weird.
Mm.
So I'm am I walking weird? Am I how am I standing? Am I slouching? Am I too straight? Or also if I basically mess up, once I start talking to them, and then it kind of confirms oh, he is weird, or he's he is nervous, the sweat and snap, because I'm trying to not trying to play it cool, but I don't think I can. And so I think them knowing how nervous I am, I guess, is like one of the biggest things, and me looking stupid, basically,
Looking stupid.
embarrassing myself.
Okay. So being afraid of being embarrassed and just kind of being out of place socially.
Mm-hmm.
And do you also feel like there's lots of times where you just like don't know what to do socially? Like maybe other people are more comfortable in a social situation or like understand the social norms a little bit better than you do.
Yeah. It's because I look at people sometimes and I'm like, they're in groups and they're just like easily talking and just laughing and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and I don't. They look so relaxed, and I don't know how to get to there.
Okay.
It seems like, I don't know. I feel like I'm trying too hard, but I'm not. I don't know. But that's one of the biggest things. I think I don't know how to talk. When I'm talking to people, I get really like, am I being weird? Am I saying this stupid stuff? Does this make sense? And then sometimes it's happened where I feel like they look at me weird when I'm talking, and some I feel like they are right. I am being weird,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think there may be some things there.
Okay. So you mind if I write this down? So one of the major things looks like you're identifying is that you're anxious about being weird or out of place, right?
Mhm.
So let's dive into this a little bit deeper. So what do you think you are worried about? So let's say you are weird or one of the like you are out of place in a situation. What do you think the consequence of that is, or what are you worried about being weird?
Well, I want to make friends, and if I'm like weird or being stupid or embarrassing myself, it's like people won't want to be my friend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I guess, the consequence, because I don't have many friends right now or at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that happens, and I think it's like it's kind of this. It's just been. I've been friendless for a long time, so
Mhm.
it's kind of like just. I feel like it's just confirming like why I don't have friends.
Mm-hmm. So you're identifying that you're afraid to be weird because it means that you won't have friends. So when you okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other thoughts that may come up?
Pertaining to what?
Pertaining so like if you go into a social situation, and worried about being weird. Are there any other thoughts that kind of come into your mind?
Well, I mean, I wonder like, am I dressed okay? Because I feel like, I guess that's a thing people care about. So I'm just like, am I dressed okay? Because I don't think I'm the most fashionable.
Mm-hmm.
Or like in interviews, because having a job is also really hard. Like they ask me a question, I feel like I know it, but like I start talking and I start stuttering and I as soon as it starts happening, I just want to walk out, and sometimes I do. I just never mind. I just walk out and leave, and then when I haven't gotten a job, it's been really difficult, because then I feel like I can't interact with other people. But again, it just comes down to like, am I being as normal? Am I not? That's basically it.
Okay. So I think we can take a look at this worry about being out of place or being weird. So we can do something where we want to identify. We have identified this belief that's going through, this thought that's going through your head that's causing you a lot of anxiety. So one thing we want to do is making sure it's like a rational belief. So a lot of times these thoughts will just pop into our head, and our fear system can be overactive. So these thoughts can be really low chance of happening or just like overprotective.
Mm.
And a lot of times if we act based on these fearful thoughts, we're not going to accomplish our goals. So sometimes an important skill is to be able to identify when a fearful thought may be irrational, and be able to act, despite that thought and kind of push through it.
Yeah.
So let's look at the belief of people see you as being weird. Do you have any what evidence do you think supports that belief?
Well, for one, I don't have friends.
Yeah, okay.
That makes me feel like that's true. I guess that's it.
You don't have friends. Okay. So we can write this down. So don't have friends is evidence for it. I believe you also said that you aren't involved in any social groups and you don't leave the house very often.
Mm-hmm.
So could that be another factor playing into why you might not have any friends? Is rather than you being weird, but just that you're not engaging with people that often, so you don't have the opportunity to make friends.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense because I always thought that I don't do those. I feel like I don't do those things because I'm so I'm a wreck, or like just overwhelmed with the anxiety. That makes sense. How I also guess I also have to put work in.
Yeah. All right. So, are there any other types of evidence you see? So, like maybe you're walking down, maybe you're like at a party or whatever. Are there any other evidence for the fact that you feel like you're weird?
Well, people when I talk to people, they talk to me for a while, but then they go away. They go with someone else or something.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah.
Put that down. And is there anything you can think of maybe a reason that evidence that you're not weird? So maybe that's not the case.
Well, since you talked about social skills, I never thought of it. I never heard of it phrased that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's actually like a thing that people practice and kind of like tennis,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I don't know how to play tennis, but it doesn't mean I can't learn how to play tennis.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, maybe I just need to learn how to play tennis.
That's a good idea. So, okay. So maybe there's some skills that you can learn that will help you in this.
Yeah, because I feel like if I the conversation stuff, I don't know, what do people talk about? Learning how to make small talk, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's the main thing.
Okay.
One
Yeah.
of the things.
Yeah, one of the main interventions for people with social anxiety is social skills training, and we can do that next session where we will basically do an overview of some social skills, basic communication, eye contact type things, what to do in certain situations.
Yeah.
And then we can practice those together, and then you can try practice them outside of us and see how they go.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's put that down.
That would be good.
So, again, let's go back to this. So one of the underlying fears you mentioned was you don't have friends, and that you're worried about being weird is gonna make you not have friends because you can't make friends, kind of.
Yeah.
So if your overall goal is to make friends, and you're anxious about not being able to do that, does it make sense to not go out in social situations because you're anxious about not making friends? Will that lead you towards your goal of making friends?
No.
No.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So do you think so the fear of, hey, I'm weird, people aren't gonna like me, may be irrational if your goal is to make friends, because by acting on that you put yourself in a situation where you're not able to?
Yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of, literally I said all those things and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that maybe a goal you have is to go out and be involved in more social events, and that you may notice that you're afraid of these things, but this may be a situation where you can recognize that your fear here isn't being rational, and that you want to move towards your goal regardless of the fear.
Yeah, but thinking, like I said, I feel like the pieces are there, but I never put them like that. So
Yeah.
I feel like just, I guess, reminding myself that it's all in my head to some degree is important.
Okay. All right. We can. I want to assign you an action plan, so some steps you can take for next time, and next time we can start working on the social skills training as well.
Okay.
So, sounds like one of the goals you had was to be involved with more social groups.
Mm-hmm.
So you think before next time you could just research a few, you don't have to join them, just research a few social groups you might want to join?
Is that a thing?
Yeah, so if you like, oftentimes on the internet, there'll be a bunch of like forums or communities based around just random social events happening in your area.
Okay.
Yeah, so I could give you a few links of websites that will like give you like events or just random meetups for people.
Yeah, that would be cool. Because I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah. All right,
That'd be good.
that sounds good.